I don't know what's going on with this thing. Hey guys, this is Bruce. Welcome to Convocourses podcast. And today I want to focus on the cybersecurity grind. Like, what does it take to get to this point? I'm gonna be very honest about what it took me to get to this point and in my career, where I'm making $100,000+ working from home. This is uncommon results, but you can get here. It's really not that special. 100,000 these days is not impossible. It's not improbable, and it's something that you can do. If I can do it, you could totally do it. And so I want to talk about that. Let me show you a comment I got that kind of inspired me to do this particular. And if I have any problems with this, if you guys have any problems seeing this thing, because for me it looks very choppy, and I don't know if it looks like that to you guys, but if it does, maybe I can restart this thing. But here's the comment that I got and why I want to speak on this topic. This is another cybersecurity professional. Let me read his comment here. Wow, this thing is going really slow. It's my computer. This computer is, maybe it's the RAM. Must be the RAM. He said, okay, here. Wow, this thing is really going slow. This is crazy. All right, so it's coming up super slow. So what he said in a nutshell is he wanted to get into cyber. He went to school to find a job. After graduating, he ended up applying for a job in DC as an IT project manager. And at the time, he had a 2-hour commute. So he was commuting 2 hours, and that traffic over on the East Coast is on another level of crazy. He says, I was in the office 2 to 3 times a week. This was before COVID, and I also wasn't getting paid what I thought was worth starting it as a GS9. Yeah, GS9s don't make a lot of money. GS9's like, I don't know, 55, 65,000 a year. He did this for 4 years. He's gotten multiple raises, and his position is now remote, 100% remote. And he agrees with my comment where I was talking about a competitive market for cybersecurity and remote work. And he says it's competitive and sacrifices have to be made starting out, but it's absolutely worth the grind. And this right here rang very true. So let me just give you my background real quick. So my background, where I started off in this field, started off in the military. So I was in the military for 8 years. And in that 8-year period, I started off I was a cop. I was a security forces member protecting planes. I was a weapons specialist, to be exact. I was specialized on M60 machine gun, the SAW, M9, and the M16A2 automatic rifle. And that was my specialty. And I did that for 5 years in the military, in about 4 years. 4 years, because it was like 4 years as a cop and then 4 years doing computers. I changed jobs in the military and started doing computer operations. So that right there, I got like 3 or 4 years worth of experience in the military, and I was in war zones at that time because it was during 9/11. So I was in the military during 9/11, and I can't even tell you how many. There's so much stuff that happened in that time frame. Anyway, so I got out of the military and I was doing contracting work, and I did that for, man, I've been doing it ever since I got out of the military. So yes, year 2000 all the way till 9, I just been going job to job to job, and sometimes it's been in the office. Most of the time, probably about 7 years of that was in the office. I was going to an office and all that kind of stuff. And then only recently, in the last 6, 7 years, I've been working remotely, because once I had a taste of the remote work pre-COVID, I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to the office again. That's just my own personal. I mean, if I had to, I would, but I'd rather not. So it's been a grind, man. It's been a grind. I don't think that you have to do all the stuff that I did or all the stuff that Larry did. Larry's the comment that I read, like, to do that kind of a grind. I think there's a faster route to it. I think if I look back on it, and this is what a lot of my books are about, this about telling you how you can do it, and like some of the things that took me 2, 3, 4 years to figure out. I'm telling you about that stuff in the books. All right. If you're interested in my books, just go in the link in the description. Go to convocourses.net. They'll have a bunch of specialties, some free books. Some books are $2.99 for a limited amount of time. Some books that are, so if you go there, you'll find free courses. You'll find discounted books. Sometimes I even give them out for free if you happen to be watching this while I'm giving out free books. So you don't have to do the same level of grind that I've had to do, because I set a path forward for you. But real quickly, I could tell you right now what I did. So what I would do if I were you, if I was, and it depends on where you're at, right? So if you happen to have zero experience at all, zero experience, you're in a whole nother field. You're doing admin work for the city of Washington D.C. or Washington State or something. You're an administrator, you're a teacher, or you're a nurse or something. And this is not your profession. IT is not your profession. So the very first thing I would do if I have zero experience, zero knowledge, is get the knowledge. Most importantly, start with the knowledge. Start with where you are and start with getting the knowledge. Keep your job. Don't quit out of frustration. Rage quit your job. Keep your job and fund it to learn cybersecurity. First of all, learn IT, basic IT stuff. Common body of knowledge. There's several ways you can do it. You can start off I would highly recommend you start off for free, because you might not want to do this. When I say free, there's courses that you can do right now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and start learning about basic IT stuff. If you're looking for the common body of knowledge, in one phrase, I could tell you what to type in. You would type in CompTIA A+, letter A plus sign. And that right there is a certification that tells you the common body of knowledge of everything you need to know to do help desk. Help desk, for those of you who don't know, is basic computer technician work, right? And there's different levels to that as well. There's high level help desk technicians, and then there's like management help desk people. But the reason why I suggest help desk or customer service, technical help customer service, is because it's a great place to start your journey, because you're going to get exposure to all aspects of an organization that needs information technology, and it's going to give you exposure to workstations, endpoint devices, a little bit of exposure possibly to servers, and how they work with endpoint devices, a little bit of exposure to networking, a little bit of exposure to how to deal with customers, communication skills. It's going to give you a little taste of everything. So you want to start off with that common body of knowledge, help desk, right? Start there, start for free, go on the internet and start learning about what help desk is. And then the common body of knowledge, try CompTIA A+. And there's other ones that address the same common body of knowledge for IT, for information technology. Another one off the top of my head is there's one called Google IT support. Is another one that you could do. And there's a couple of other ones, but you want to start off just watch them on YouTube. If you like it, if this is like something you want, then you want to start putting a little bit of skin in the game, a little bit of money, a little bit of your time. Like now you want to start buying books. Like you could buy a book for like $8 to get more deeper into information technology and really start to study it. What I would recommend is getting the IT CompTIA A+ certification. The reason why I suggest it is because it was my first certification, and it actually is marketable if you want to get yourself out there. Now, let's say you have the knowledge, you've already been studying it, you're an entry-level person, you know this stuff, you kept your job so you can keep funding your learning and stuff. There's a couple directions you can go here. You can go the student route. If you're trying to get a degree, I would recommend at least a bachelor's degree, but an associate's degree can do you just fine. If you want to go that route, you don't have to, but that is what I would highly recommend that you do, because you're going to get a deeper level of knowledge, and it's going to give you another branch of things that you can do. You're going to meet a whole bunch of other people who are going to get in the industry. You're going to meet people who are in the industry who can pull you in. You're going to start building a network of people who you can contact to get jobs. Another thing that college gives you that some other routes don't is internships, apprenticeships. You're going to have more routes to do that kind of stuff. You'll be able to be a working student. There's a lot of different routes. If you have the time, money, and an opportunity to go to college, even a community college, I would highly recommend that. Now, if that's not an option, but you happen to be working in retail, in finance, and wherever you are, banking industry, healthcare, I guarantee you they have an IT department. Now, this is based on you having some level of knowledge, right? You've already gathered the knowledge. You've been maybe studying this for 6 months. You've invested in yourself, maybe got a course or two. You bought a book. You know the knowledge. You have an A+ certification. You have a Google IT support certification. This is just validating that you know the knowledge, right? You messed around with your own network at home, you built your own network, you built your own computers. Now you're an IT, you're a geek. Now what you want to do is either go the student route. If that's not an option for you, another thing you could do, if you happen to be in another industry, look for the IT department in your industry. So if, let's say you're healthcare and you happen to be a CNA in a healthcare industry, now what you want to do is talk to the organization you work for and see if they have a way for you to work laterally, meaning change jobs internally from a CNA to the guys who do the IT department. And if they don't have that, talk to the IT guys there that are fixing the routers, that are fixing the wireless stuff, right? Talk to them. You might even be able to shadow them and get experience on your own time. Another thing you can do is look inside your industry, because even if your organization doesn't currently have IT spots, somebody in your field might have spots that they're looking for somebody who knows a CNA healthcare jargon, but also has an A+ certification, also has a Security Plus certification, or whatever certification you have. And now you're trying to get you're trying to get your feet wet and get in there. So stay within your this is just another option. Stay within your field and get in there. Now, let's talk to people who are already in this field. Let's say you're an IT person and you're trying to level up. Let's say you have an A+ certification. You want to level up. So now you're in a prime spot. You're in a prime spot, and you're mostly who I talk to. You are the type of person who I can really help. So number one, you got to tighten up your resume. And if you don't know how to do that, you can go to my link in description. It's convocourses.net and look for a free resume course. That's going to be my resume. You can download it for free, and then it'll break down what you need to have in your resume, the resume format. Another thing you want to do is look at how people on LinkedIn create their, like, what are the keywords that somebody in the field of cybersecurity or software engineering or whatever field you want to go in, what keywords and phrases are they using to get into those jobs? Because they're highly marketable. So you want to start using some of the jargon that they use. The thing is, if you are already in IT and you already have been doing this, that means you've already done a lot of cybersecurity stuff. You just probably haven't put it in your resume yet. You got to put that stuff in your resume. I got a downloadable link with a bunch of formats. Like, I think it's like 4 different ATS style resumes that you can download from my site, that you can check out those. But LinkedIn has a bunch of all kinds of free sources that you can use as well. So I would highly recommend that you do that as well. So there's just all kinds of ways to get in this, but it's gonna take you a while to get. It's like levels. There's levels to this, right? In the beginning, the levels are much slower. It's like you're walking in mud, and it's a real steep learning curve. But when you get past a certain amount of that grind, that IT grind, it starts to get easier and easier and easier. You start to get more job opportunities, and then once you start getting in those jobs, you start to get higher and higher pay opportunities, and then you start to have all these other opportunities in IT. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But it didn't happen overnight. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is something, basically, I'm still going through phases. I'm still growing as a professional. I'm still using this platform to fund other things that I like to do. I'm still using IT to fund other things I like. I like to travel. I like to build my business. I like to I'm in real estate. I use my job to fund all the other stuff the cool shit I want to do in life. You know what I mean? So, okay, I got some questions here. Tyler Becker, how you doing, sir? He says, what's the highest computer security level? Highest computer security level? Do you highest computer? What do you mean? Tempest? I'm trying to figure out. Do you mean highest computer security? Do you mean security clearance or security cyber computer security level? You mean for certs? Or do you mean computers? What's the highest compliance or certs? Compliance. Highest computer security level. Okay, I'm assuming you mean like compliance. What's the high? Oh, you mean what's the highest level of compliance for an organization? So I think what Tyler's getting at is an organization is supposed to be at a certain level of security, a certain security posture, and that's usually created. That security posture is created based on different governance, risk, and compliance standards, and you have different standards in each industry. So you have healthcare has its own compliance standards. Federal government has its own compliance standards. The financial sector has its own financial standards, computer security standards. So I would say, first of all, Tyler, it would depend on what field, what industry you're in. Of the ones have been exposed to, from ISO 27001, a little bit of HIPAA, a little bit of Sarbanes-Oxley, really not much, SOC, and NIST 800 and PCI compliance. Those are the ones I've been exposed to. I don't know if there's any. I'm sure that there's different levels, and some of them are higher, different levels. Of all the ones I've seen, NIST 800 is the most robust, meaning it has the most security controls. It has the most things that you have to do in order to get compliance. But that said, it depends on what level of information you have. It's all based off of your information sensitivity. In other words, if you have data that can be publicly available, let's say in federal government you have recruiters, like you have the Air Force recruiters, right? And they might have a website where they're recruiting to high schoolers or something, right? So a lot of the stuff on that web server is going to be publicly available. All they're doing is parroting all of the approved marketing material from the U.S. Air Force, and then they post it on this website. They have to have some level of security on that system that they're running, but it's mostly publicly available information, as opposed to a system that is a Army and Air Force based NATO and secret system that is detecting missiles over hot, war zones. They have systems like that they may or may not have systems like that can detect hostile enemies coming over in war zones. I'm not talking about anything specific, but if you had something where that you had a system where this is an important system, right? Because if it goes down, like, people can die, because if, let's say, tanks coming across a certain line, maybe what it does is it has a satellite or something. I'm just making some shit up. Okay, it's not a specific system, but let's say you had a satellite and it paints a picture of an area of a war zone, and it says, okay, here's the line, here's the enemy, and have the AI or computer that figures out where everything is, right? And then it can see everything that's going across a certain area, right, from a satellite. And then that data is sent back to an analyst who's looking at it, and all that data is classified. That's all classified information. If that system goes down for even an hour, people's life can be on the line, because if then, let's say the system goes down, then missiles or, troops are coming across a certain area, then that's bad. So that information is very different from the recruiter information, right? So the levels of security are completely based on how we're going to protect the levels of information. And all the systems do the same. All GRC systems do exactly what I'm talking about. They look at the importance of the asset and the importance of the information. It's called they do an impact assessment, and they say, okay, what is the impact if this server goes down? This publicly available web server that's advertising to high schoolers to come into the Air Force versus this military logistics combat system that's linked to satellite information. Like, if this one goes down, okay, we could probably fix it in 2-3 days. No big deal, right? A week, 2 weeks, whatever, right? It's going to affect our numbers for bringing people in, but it's fine. We still have recruiters that go out. We have a backup website, whatever. But if this other system goes down, people can literally die. So now you're talking about people's lives on the line, damaging millions of dollars of equipment being destroyed or stolen or something like that. So these two systems have completely different levels. That said, this system over here that's protecting publicly available information might have 50 different controls that they have to put on two systems. But this other system is probably going to have more like 300 or 400 controls on it, on 4 or 5 systems that are geographically, that are based all over the world. So this one's going to have a way higher level of security. It's going to have probably a roaming patrols. It has top secret clearance information on it. So only personnel that has top secret clearances, they have to have a background check to even come into the area, physically come in the area. So the level of security is going to be based entirely on the impact that information has to the organization, be it business or mission or whatever, and sometimes even to the nation, depending on the importance of of the system. So it really depends. To answer your question, the strongest, the most security is going to be that I've seen will probably be a system based off of NIST 853 controls that has classified information. Yeah. You got other standards like PCI compliance, pretty loose, man. Like, when you ever go to a hotel, it's kind of scary, actually, seeing it from the inside out. It's not like military, man. The military, but that said, military is on a very hostile networks, because they're being attacked all the time by other organizations and stuff. So, so actually, Ice Cold says a TSSCI classified system. Yeah, he nailed it. That's it right there. That is the most secure system I've ever seen, and I've worked on a couple of those types of systems, and it's actually pretty ridiculous. Like, first of all, the system has to be in a SCIF, secret compartmentalized information facility that has no windows. You have to have to go into the area. Sometimes they'll weigh you, they'll look at your ID, they make sure you're on a certain checklist. You have to have an ID card to come in to the area, and it's crazy, man. I mean, they have sometimes fingerprints. I've never seen the retina scanner, but I guess some facilities have that. I mean, it's the level of security is on a different. It's so ridiculous. It's the highest level of classification system and most security I've ever seen on a system, for sure. But, and that being said, is piggybacking off of what I just said, which is the more important the information is, the more security they're going to have on that particular system. Hope that answers your question. Okay, I got a couple things on here from in LinkedIn and YouTube. Let me see here. Bear with me. My system's going really, really slow. I got to clean this thing up or something, man. It's going crazy. I can barely even, wow. Excuse me. This thing is going slow as hell. It's so slow. Damn. Man, you win some, you lose some, man. Today it's so slow. I can't click the messages to get them on the screen. Okay, well, Anthony Sutherland says, what level of difficulty would you give the CYSA plus certification 1 through 10? So, Anthony, I have not taken the CYSA plus. I can only tell you what I've heard from it. I've taken the Security Plus. I've taught the Security Plus. I've taken the A Plus. I've taken the Network Plus, a CISSP, and several other vendor certifications. But CYSA I haven't taken, but I've got some friends and coworkers who have. And first of all, CYSA is if I'm not mistaken, it's for people who are SOC analysts. It's an security analyst certification. That's people who are monitoring data as it's flowing in and out of an organization, and then they might have to respond to security incidents. On a scale, I can tell you that I believe that is an entry level certification, one step above an entry level certification. Whereas you've got entry level certification is like a A plus certification, Network Plus certification. Those are entry level certifications. Google support IT support. That's an entry level certification. They're for people who are just starting. They don't know anything about IT and they're coming in, right? And then you have another level that kind of once you go beyond entry level, you're usually going to specialize in this or that thing. Like it's going to either go into networking or programming or pen testing, or in your case, you're talking about SOC analyst. So it's like one step above a entry level. And that said, entry level being a 1 or 2. Let's say entry level's usually like there's not too many that are a 1. There are a couple. I think ITIL's like a 1. Like it's super easy. There's no reason why you shouldn't take it besides like money. And above that, I would say a 2 or a 3 would be an A plus certifications, like a 3. And then your mid-tier certifications are like a 4 or 5. That's like right above the entry level, because it progressively goes up in how hard it is and how many questions they give you and how many like trick questions that they give you and stuff, all the way up to professional level certs like the CISSP or the CASP or something like that, to expert level and beyond certifications, which I've never had an expert level certification. I've only heard about them, but those are hella hard from what I've heard from friends and coworkers who have taken those. Hella hard. Hella expensive, hella hard. They don't give a damn if you fail. You spent 10K to learn it. They don't give a damn. It's hella hard. But anyway, so I would say from what I've heard, it's probably like a 4 or 5, because it's not necessarily entry level. They're expecting you to come in with some knowledge already of basic IT stuff and even have a little bit of experience. So probably a 4 or 5, I would say. With, let's say, 10 being a CCIE and an 8 or a 7 or 8 being a CISSP or a CASP, and then mid-tier Security Plus is probably a 5. It's not super hard. I would, it's like maybe a 4 or 5. Yeah, Security Plus is somewhere in the middle. It's not super hard, but It's not super easy. Like for somebody who's been doing this for a while, they might consider it super easy. But for an entry level person, there's just a lot of things that you're supposed to know before you even take the Security Plus. All right, let me see another couple questions. Let me answer some from TikTok real quick. Now I apologize. These I'm getting a bunch of questions, but from LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, they're just going really, really slow, and I don't know what's going on. It's something with my system, perhaps. I'm not sure. This is really, really slow. So they're like, I'm trying to scroll, and this is like really slow. Anyway, how much do you get on a master's farm? That's a fucking weird question. That's a fucking weird question. A fake black dude is asking racist questions. Keep it classy, TikTok. Where can I get my hands-on experience from online training perspective with a provider? That's actually a really good question. Where can I get my hands on? It depends on what kind you want. Ice cold. The only one off the top of my head I know that you can get hands-on experience, but I don't know that you could use it on your resume. But hands-on experience, I don't know of any GRC ones that you're not going to spend like $3,000 on that are hands-on. I was thinking about making one myself, but that it just takes a while to do it. Anyway, ones that are out right now that you could do would be pen testing ones. There's a bunch of pen testing hands-on things that you can do. One is called Try Hack Me. Try Hack Me, all one word. And then the other one is Hack the Box. They've got a bunch of certifications like that you can, not certifications, but a bunch of hands-on online training that you can use. And as you go up in levels, they have different pay points. You might want to try it. Like it's pretty cool. I've messed around with it. Like one of them, I can't really remember if it's Try Hack Me, but even to get into the site, you have to hack. It's really cool. And then once you figure it out, it's like a little puzzle. Once you figure it out, you're like, it kind of gives you an idea of what hacking is like just to get into the site. It's really cool. So that's one site you could do. Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, hands-on IT, cybersecurity stuff, mostly pen testing. Other than that, there's a couple of online training resources you could use for network engineers. One is called GNS3, Golf November Sierra 3. I believe when I did it, it was a downloadable little code you could run on your desktop. So that's one, but they've got a bunch of other online networking things that you can use. They've got like these little Boson, BOSON. They have a bunch of online training that you could do. I believe they even have like a fake router. Like you can log into the router and stuff and like configure it and back it up and things like that for Cisco or for Juniper routers. Another one you can do, check this out. This is going to blow your mind. Another thing you can do is you can train ChatGPT to do routers. Real talk. Blew my mind when I first did it. I was like, what the hell is going on? What in God's green earth is happening here? You can go check this out. If you haven't tried this out, you're in for a treat. I think you can even do this with the other chat. You can probably do this with Bard, any kind of AI chat, most of them. You go in there and you tell it to act as a router, act as a switch, act as a Cisco switch, and then you can actually start it'll emulate a Cisco switch or router. That being said, you kind of have to know what you're doing because the thing is, you could tell it to train you. You could tell it, act as a Cisco instructor and teach me and give me an interactive switch or router to work with. Walk me through the basics of being a network engineer. You can use those exact words and it will do it. It'll instruct you, okay, type this in. back up the router. Normally, you back up the router like this, and then it'll have an emulator that's emulating the back end of a router. It's I don't even know what to say, man. AI is on it's like magic, man. It's mind blowing. You could do it with firewalls. I've done it with Palo Alto firewall. I've done it with Linux. If you're trying to learn Linux stuff, you could do it with that. You could do it with any kind of command line interface, anything with a command line interface. And as an IT person, I, anything with a command line interface is super important for you to learn if you're starting out. But that's going to give you a lot of hands-on experience. I don't know that you could use that on your resume or anything, but it's going to give you, like, you'll have the tactile memory of how to work on Linux, how to work on Cisco, Juniper, Palo Alto, or whatever system you're working with. Because there's certain commands that you need to, especially like you're navigating the back end of Linux systems. Once you start doing it over and over again, there's certain things that you're going to use over and over again to navigate the file structure on the command line. That's not Windows. That's not using a mouse or anything. That's just straight up typing commands in to go to certain files or copy files or make folders or make files and things like that. But you can do that with ChatGPT. Hope that helps. Really cool to play with. Let me see here. I've got some other questions here. Let me see if I could read this one. I'm having some issues with the LinkedIn stuff here, but okay. Bryson says, "Hey Bruce, do you have any recommendations for someone that has a 2-year IT experience with help desk, service desk analyst roles? I have a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity and security plus certification. I've also been working on a home lab related to SIEM technology and vulnerability scanners just to get as much experience as I can. I'm trying to find an entry level point into cybersecurity. I've been applying to a lot of positions with no dice. Do you have a recommendations for me? P.S. Started reading your book." Okay, yeah. I definitely have experience. Something that you could do, Bryson. I'm always shocked when people um, in your position who has a degree, who has 1-2 years of IT help desk experience, who has a security plus, like you've been. So this means that you have a lot of exposure. Then you have much more exposure than the average person who's in IT. Much more exposure than the average person to cybersecurity in particular. So if you're trying to get into this field, then you come to the right place. Let me tell you what I've done that's been working for me. Listen, so what I do is I'm absolutely relentless on marketing myself. I'm the service, I am the product. So what I'm doing here is just the tip of the iceberg. The stuff that I do on the back end is really what gets me all the opportunities. Now, I wrote this in a book. I put this in a course. But I'm going to tell you game. I'm going to spit game right now. If you happen to be watching me and anybody who happens to be in this position, I'm going to tell you what I do. So number one, you got to tighten up your resume. And there's several things that you can do to do that. Number one, if you don't have any idea what an ATS style resume is, you can download mine right now for free. My resume is on my site. It's called convocourses.net. Go there. You'll see all the free stuff. Go scroll to the bottom. You'll see some free stuff there. You can download my resume to give you an idea of what the format should look like. Right. This is very important because an ATS style resume, for those of you who don't know, is application tracking software. I was doing this by accident. I had no idea. I had the most basic, ugly resume that you could possibly think of. But it turns out that basic ass ugly resume is exactly what feeds best into these databases that the companies have. And tech recruiters, companies, they have these databases that if it feeds, it sucks in your resume. And if it's in that ATS style format, it can easily parse your name, put your name in one field in the database, put your education in one field in their database, easily take all of your experience and put that into one part of their database, and take your all the parts, all your experience, all your certifications. It'll take your resume and put it in their database, so that way your resume is now searchable inside of their company, and that makes it easier for them to find you. So ATS style resume is very, very important, and that's why I give you mine for free. So you have a free 4 or 5 different examples of an ATS style resume. If you don't know what it is, you don't want to download my resume, whatever, go to the internet and just type ATS style resume, and they'll have a bunch of breakdowns of how you can get an ATS style resume, right? It's very simple. It just has the header, your name up top. It doesn't typically have a summary, right? Summary is real super game. I'm going to give you in a second here. We'll get to that. But it's going to have your name on the top, right? Very simple. It's not fancy. It doesn't look pretty. It's just your name on the top of a dot, either a PDF or a .docx, right? Those are the two top formats to use for ATS style resume, right? So name on top, and then when you say your work experience, it's just going to say either experience or work experience. Nothing else. Nothing else is going to, because the database might not know what professional work experience is. Like that whole phrasing, it might not be. If some databases can't differentiate between that and what it's looking for a specific thing in the title of work experience, right? So you need either work experience or experience. And then there's a certain format that you have to put the work experience in. It needs to have, for example, the title of your job. It needs to have the place that you worked, and it needs to have the time frame of where you worked and where you work presently, if you have that. So and it has to be in chronological order, right? All of that, the format of that will help it to be parsed into their database easier. Super important. That's why I just spent like 1 minute talking about just that. Next, what you want to do is put in keywords. Now, keywords are specific to whatever industry you're trying to get into, whatever specific type of IT that you're doing. And the reason I say that is because even cybersecurity itself is a very broad field. You've got GRC, which is what I do. Within GRC, you've got PCI DSS, you've got NIST 800, you've got ISO 27001, you've got HIPAA, you've got all these different standards just in my field alone. Then you have another field of cybersecurity. You've got pen testers. You've got black hats. You've got white hats. You've got ethical hackers. You've got all kinds of devices and all kinds of tools that they use to do their work. You got red teaming. You've got SQL injection attacks. You've got all these types of things, MITRE attack framework. You've got all these different things that they're familiar with, kill chain, whatever else. I'm not a pen tester, obviously, so I don't know what else, all the stuff. But you've got cybersecurity analysts. Anyway, what I'm saying is you've got all these different areas just within computer cybersecurity by itself, and each one of those areas has their own group of keywords. The best way to find these keywords is to go to LinkedIn. You can literally go to LinkedIn, look at other people who are in the field you're trying to get into. For example, if you're trying to do cybersecurity analyst work, type in cybersecurity analyst, look up people, sort by people, and look up anybody who does that work. And if this computer wasn't going so slow, I would give you an example of it. It's going really, really choppy and slow, but that's all you do. So if you want keywords, find the keywords. I'm not telling you to lie in your resume. What I'm trying to tell you to do is use their wording and fit that wording into what experience you've already done. And if you say you've done 2 years of IT experience, help desk and service desk, so you for sure have exposure to things like malware, anti-malware, incident response. You for sure have exposure to ticketing structures, documentation, policies, security procedures. You for sure have experience with All of these things, updating systems, updating servers, updating Windows 10, Windows 11, maybe Mac systems that you're working with, maybe Linux systems. Like you have exposure to all those things. You got to put the security features that you've applied in your resume. And so to find the keywords, you need to go to LinkedIn. One of the best, LinkedIn or Google will do, but LinkedIn I think is best. Go to LinkedIn, type in let's say you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, type that in, look for people, look at there's some people like myself who post their entire resume online. And you can look through how they word certain things and then put that stuff in your resume. So that's what you want to do. And you want to put that in an ATS style resume, right? You with me so far? Now, once you have that, you have an ATS style resume, you have all the keywords, key phrases for the industry and the organizations in the area that you want to focus on, keywords in there. Now what you want to do is post that resume everywhere. And this is where I lose a lot of people. A lot of people just don't do this. But this is very important because it's a numbers game at the end of the day, right? Really, advertising is all about numbers. And if you think that just posting it on 20 different places is going to be a lot, it's not. If you think that being exposed on 100 different places is a lot, it's not really. No, it's not. So what you want to do is you want to make a profile on LinkedIn, on dice.com, on monster.com, on simplyhired.com. I think there's one called indeed.com. Essentially take at the very least the top 10 the top 10 job aggregators. You want to have a profile on each one of those. If you're really serious, that should be your job. Like you should every day take an hour and just go ahead and do profiles every day. If you I would do 100 of them. I'm not even exaggerating. I would take the top 100. If you really want to get a job, take the top 100 job aggregators and make a profile on every single one. And you can do this easily by if you've already done the ATS style resume, the resume is tight, it's like you want it. When you upload it when you start, let's say, an account on dice.com, when you upload your resume, it's going to take all your information and parse it correctly because it's looking for ATS style resumes. It's going to parse it and put it in. It'll automatically post in all your education, automatically post in all of your experience, automatically post in all your certifications if you put it in the right format. Now, sometimes there'll be things that are a little off because the formatting is off or whatever for the site. And that's what takes the time. You're going to have to take, say your education is not populating properly or didn't recognize the college you went to or something. So then you got to go in there and like populate that properly. So that will take time. I would say if you're serious, if you really want a job here, right? If you really want a job, you really want to get your foot, you want to kick down that door. Hell, if you just want to level up, maybe you're already in a great position, but you want to make more money. This is what you do. I'm just telling you. You put this on the top 100 job aggregators. Now, let me warn you real quick. If you do this, you will get contacted and not everybody you want contacting you. So what I do, a little hack that I do, and I talk about all this in my book. I walk you through this on a video course it's really cheap. But I'm giving you free game right now. Hell, you could watch some of my videos on YouTube. Everything I'm telling you, I'm telling you exactly how to do this. So listen, I got to warn you. If you do this, it really does work. It's extremely effective. So that said, there's a negative side of it because you will get contacted by so many technical recruiters that you don't need all of them. Probably 90% are going to be garbage. Some of them are going to be flat out scams. Like it's not even a real job or anything. People are going to see you and they're going to reach out to you. So what I do is I put a separate phone number. Like I use Google Voice, I believe. There's others. You can do like a 1-800 number or a fake number that it forwards calls to your voicemail automatically because you'll be getting calls all hours throughout a day. Monday through Friday, you'll be getting calls and emails. Another thing you want to do is partially make it so that the emails it's going to an email that's not going to, that's not going to overpopulate the main email that you use. So you can use like a throwaway email, or you can just make a rule inside of your email that puts it into a certain folder. I have one called jobs. And so every time a job comes in, it just goes into that folder, right? So when I want to look at jobs, I'll go into that folder and look at it or whatever. So warning, fair warning. Another thing, be careful with your private information, because I don't know if you guys knew this, but LinkedIn recently got hacked. And so what somebody did was they scraped LinkedIn. That means that they created like a Python script, probably using AI, that pulled all the information, all the resumes, all the personal information, anything you've ever posted on LinkedIn. It pulled it into their little database. And then now what they can do is use everybody's phone numbers, emails, real name, where you live, anything you put on your resume, they have it. It's been hacked. That happened like 3 weeks ago. That LinkedIn got hacked, and somebody scraped everything out of LinkedIn and can now, whatever you put on there is now in somebody's hands. So what I do is I don't use my real name on my resume. I don't use my phone. I've used a throwaway phone number, like a different phone number that forwards to some voicemail, because that got really annoying really fast. And then I use an email where I have a rule that sends it to another folder. Those three things. I don't put my address on there. I might put my state on there, and I don't. Another thing is, be careful, especially if you work in the federal government. Be careful what you actually post in your resume, because if you don't post classified, be careful with what you post in your resume. That's all I'm gonna say about that. If you have a specific organization, you work for a 3-letter, you want to be careful about what vulnerabilities that you fixed. And just be careful with even what you say in there. There's a way that you can word it in such a way that you're still telling people, hey, I know Red Hat really well, without exposing anything about the 3-letter organization that you worked for. It's not going to give the enemy any information that they could use to exploit that organization that you worked for, right? So anyway, so all of that said, you want to put your resume on 100 different job aggregators. This will work. It's been working for me for years. At any moment, I could hit the eject button on any job I currently work at and be gone at a job that pays as much or more than what I pay right now. And I mean, these days I'm older and I got kids. I'm just trying to find something stable. I'm not chasing dollars anymore. I'm chasing stability. So if I have a job that's stable, then I typically will just stay there. But I have so many opportunities at any given moment that I just give them away. I just send them in my newsletter. I put them on Discord for other people. I'll send it to friends of mine. Hey, man, do you want this job right here? And some of them are really good. Sometimes I'm looking at it like, damn, this looks kind of good. And I'm like, nah, I need to stop jumping around. And then I'll just give the job to somebody else. That opportunity is somebody else. So it really works, man. But you've got to follow through. And if I were you, if I was really trying to level up, if I was really trying to get more work, what I would do is I would make that my job. That's what I would do. And Bryson, I hope that worked for you, man. I hope that helps you out. Let me see. Other questions. Let me go to TikTok. Coco said, "What's up, Bruce? How you doing, man?" UNC, the knowledge is gold. Okay. Oh, the knowledge is gold. I'm certified in all these certs, bachelor's degree, cybersecurity. Should I go into management? He said, I recently got laid off. Should I go into management side of IT? Hobbs, that's not a bad play, man. Management typically makes more money in IT. So it's something to think about. That being said, you'll be away from, I don't know how you feel about IT. Like, for me, especially when I was younger, I was really wanting to do as much hands-on as possible. And so I personally have been purposely staying away from management. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just not for it's not for me personally. But yeah, man, it pays better. It's probably more stable. I mean, a lot of times, if you're dual sorted, like you have the IT background where you have the hands-on experience and you've got the the background of being a management guy, that's actually really good. That's something I should actually consider, because now you can wield you're two-handed with it. You know what I mean? So you can apply for management positions, and you can apply for the hands-on type positions. So Hobbs, man, I would say the best job is the one that's the best opportunity, not necessarily if it's a management or an IT. But another thing about management, though, that's really dope is that management allows you to move laterally this way or that way. Because once you're in IT management, hell, you could be project management. You could be a project manager or a program manager. From there, you can go all these other branches of management. Goes all into director. You could be a director. You could be a C level exec. You can go into senior management. There's all kinds of branches from management. So yeah, man, if you have the opportunity, if somebody offers it to you and it's a good money, good benefits and stuff, I would say go for it. Yeah, I mean, management is fire. Best hands-on lab to build practical skills. I have no experience trying to get into SOC role. Okay. Um, One of the things that I did was I set up a SIEM in my house. I set up a storage, a network storage system in my house. I set up a server in my house and scanners, different scanning tools on my network. And all this sounds fancy, but to be honest with you, you can get all of this on one system. Isn't that crazy? You can get all this on one system. There's several tools you can use to do this. One is called one's called Sandbox. I think that one's free. There's one called Sandbox. Look it up. I That's not the one I use. I use VMware. VMware is now VMware is going to cost you about $250, but if you want a free one, there's free versions of there's free VMs out there. But Sandbox is, I believe, free. I don't know if it's still free, but the one I really love is VMware. VMware has a VMware workstation. It allows you to put a server. You can put several systems on one computer. You could put a server, some workstations, and then you can have an attack system. So what I would do is I put Windows 19, Windows 7, some old version of Windows 10, right? And I don't know where you're going to get those instances of Windows. That's the tricky part, but they're out there. If you can grab them. Anyway, get instances of those. You got to be careful. Some of them have the ones that are free, have free viruses on them. So just be careful where you get those. But you can get the different operating systems, right? You don't have to be Windows. Like Windows is, kind of paywalled, but you can get like Ubuntu, which is free, Unix systems, Linux, different Linux variants of Linux, and put those on there. But anyway, there's servers and then there's workstations, right? Then you have an attack system. You can use Kali Linux. Kali Linux is still free, so you can use that one to attack the other systems. And you set that one to attack. It's teaching you a couple things. It's teaching you how to use virtual VMware, which is really nice, really great to know. How to use VMware's virtual systems, how to network those virtual systems. It's teaching you how to set up, how to conduct attacks from the Linux system. It's teaching you, and then how to defend, like what the data looks like when you're defending those systems. Like it'll teach you, you got to think about, okay, now that I have everything in this environment network, this little network that I have, this virtual network works. Now you got to think about, okay, how do I detect? Now you got to think about turning on the audit logs. And then how do I see the audit logs? And if you're on a Linux system, is how do I do a tail F to see all the audit logs running live? Like you're going to have to learn each one of those things step by step. And all of those little pieces that you learn step by step, man, you're going to be way ahead once you actually get into that SOC analyst role. You're going to be way ahead of most people because they're not going to know all that kind of stuff. That's what I did. And so I knew a lot of things that a lot of my coworkers who were new didn't know. And so a lot of times they would come to me about certain things, and I would just know because I was setting up labs in my house. So that's not the only thing you want to do, by the way. You want to use scanners, like popular scanners, as much as possible. Like if you can get your hands on Qualys or Nessus or any of the popular ones that are being used, right? And typically they'll allow you to use like a free 7-day, 14-day trial and then run those. And Splunk, I think also Splunk, which is a SIEM, well, that's a big one. Splunk, you definitely want to try that one. Somebody mentioned TryHackMe. TryHackMe has a course. I'm using TryHackMe Junior Analyst course to build practical skills. That's also good, man. That's also a really good one. But what I did was I built it on my own computer, and it would taught me, first of all, how to use virtual systems, how to network those together. That was a pain in the ass to learn it. How to install things like Splunk, how to install things like how to mess around with the scanner, how do they look, how do you navigate through how to start a scan, what it looks like, how you do scanning pools, like there's pools of IPs that you have to put together. Like all this stuff took me trial and error, like watching other people's videos on how to do it, going to Nessus website, vendor website to figure out how to set all that stuff up. And that's how I kind of learned some of that stuff. And to this day, I still go back to say, okay, how do I type this command in Splunk? How do I, do this particular scan? How do I pull this information? So it's an ongoing learning process. But that the virtual machines, like that really untied my hands, like as far as learning as much technical cybersecurity stuff as I need to know. And I'm a GRC guy. I don't really need to know all that stuff. I don't do that stuff day to day. But I mean, I might touch those systems, but I'm not setting them up. I'm not really in the weeds on those things. Every time I mess around with that stuff, I have to relearn it because I'm not doing it every day. So, which project is suitable to build after OSCP? Man, I'm not the right person to ask about OSCP or anything. Which project is suitable to build after OSCP? Man, I'm not the right person. That's way above my knowledge, man. And OSCP is a Cali offensive security professional certification. So that's a high level pen tester, and that's not me, man. I'm not that guy. So I wouldn't even know where to point you. If you're already in OSCP, I'm not the right guy for that, man. You know more than I do. You should have your own website. I will watch your channel. Like I'm not a pen tester, man. I know a little bit on pen testing. I'm not the guy to ask for that. Let me see. Okay, let me see. I got some other questions here. Anthony says, have done any work? Have you done any work with CVDs, CVEs, and CVSS vulnerability exploits, Mudge and Stigs? Do most vendors put this process for certification of their products for government use? Yes, this two-part question. Yes, I've used some of this stuff. I'm familiar with CVEs and the CVSS vulnerabilities. I have to use that from time to time. And STIGs, I'm pretty familiar with that. We have to use that pretty regularly, and mapping that to the environment that we have as far as vulnerability management. So yeah, I use that quite a bit. But do vendors use that process in their certifications? Now, just to give you context for me to answer this question, I've got a few vendor certifications. I've got an old Microsoft certification. I've got an old Cisco certification that has expired. I've got Oracle that I haven't used that in years. I've got, I don't know, some other ones like Qualys and couple other ones, right, on stuff that I had to learn when I would go to another organization and like, okay, hey, everybody has to have this certification, go through this, go ahead and do this. And you go, they pay for you to do whatever certification or give you the time to go ahead and go take that certification, and you would go ahead and do it. That said, having taken Microsoft and Cisco and Oracle, none of them talk about STIGs at all. I think maybe once you get up in the levels, like maybe the higher level Cisco certifications. I got a CCNA at one point, maybe when you specialize, but I've never seen of any of all the ones I've taken, all the vendor certifications, they don't ever mention STIGs, man. I don't even know of a certification who's even mentioned STIGs before. Probably the closest would be the CISSP, but I don't think they mention it either. Now I think about it, no, they don't. They don't really mention it. Not even the GRC mentions it. No, I have not taken a certification where they've mentioned STIGs before. Now it's been a while since I've taken a certification, so maybe they've changed it recently. But no, I would say no. I would say they don't mention STIGs. They don't mention. You would think that they would at least mention CVEs. They don't mention that. CVSS, none of that is mentioned. Maybe in the old CAP certification, they might have mentioned CVSS scores, but no. I would say no. No. They don't. Vendor certifications pretty much stick with their, like if you're taking a Cisco certification, what they want to know is, can you navigate our product? Do you know our software? Do you know how to maintain our software? Do you know how to, it's all product centric and all service centric. So they're not talking about anything outside of their product. And the reason why I think that they don't do that, Microsoft doesn't do it, Oracle doesn't do it, Cisco doesn't do it, is because this stuff changes so rapidly that if they mention somebody else's product or service, even if it's a government one, unless it's a law, sometimes they'll mention different laws, but um, the standards like CVEs or stuff like that, they don't normally mention those things because they're only focusing on their stuff. And the reason why is because that stuff changes from time to time. CVSS is up to CVSS version 3 or something. So no, they don't mention it, to answer your question. Let me see. Bryson says, appreciate your response. We'll definitely check out ATS style resume and getting in more keywords. Great work, man. And have profiles through LinkedIn, Dice, Indeed, but we'll add it to others. Man, I'm telling you, it works. In addition to that, let me add a little bit more to that, right? So we already talked about making sure you have an ATS style resume, flooding that ATS style resume with all the keywords for the particular job that you're trying to role that you're trying to get, making sure that you put it on all these dice on LinkedIn, on Career Builder, on 100 different sites. The next thing you need to do is apply for jobs like crazy. Now, what this does is, if you have your profile on all these sites hooked up properly, most sites, all your top stuff, your top 10 sites will have a feature called let me see. LinkedIn calls it quick apply, easy apply, or quick apply, where you can just hit a button and it'll automatically take your entire profile and then apply for that job with clicks of 2-3 buttons, and then you're done. And then what that does is make it so that you can quickly apply for more jobs faster. Now, not every employer does that feature. I don't know if they have to pay more or if they have to do more work to get that feature, but man, that thing is helpful, because what I start doing is I have an active and a passive campaign set up. A passive campaign is that I put my resume everywhere. And so I'm constantly getting bombarded with all these opportunities, and 90% of them, I don't want to do it. It's too far away. It's not work from home. It doesn't fit any of my criteria, right? Or whatever. Like I'm not even suited for that particular position, whatever. So that said, I've got so many opportunities to sort through that are coming to me without me doing anything because I've already done all the work. That's the passive campaign. The active one, the aggressively active one, is what I do. Is now that everything's set up, I start going through and do a quick apply, quick apply, quick apply. It's one button you hit on. I think Dice has it, Monster has something like that, and then LinkedIn definitely has it. And you'll see it, quick apply, quick apply. Once you set up everything properly, you can just hit quick apply. In addition to that, I'm going through and finding every single risk management framework job opportunity that I can when I'm looking for employment, and I'm applying for every one that I feel like I'm a fit for, that I want to do, that I'm a fit for. So that's what you want to do: a passive campaign and an active, aggressive, active campaign. You will get interviews doing what I just told you, and typically, to get the kind of jobs I want, I got to do like 5 different interviews before I'm down to like one that's an actual offer. Like that means they send me a letter saying, "Hey, we're going to pay you X amount. We want you to start on this particular day. Do you want to do this? Sign here at the bottom, contact our whoever." So out of 5 interviews, like I'll contact probably 100 different organizations, either by applying for the job or them contacting me and me talking to a screener. I'll do like 100 of those, right? That's easy. It sounds crazy, but I'll do like 100 of those, or contact between me and them 100 people. And out of those 100, I'll get about 10 or 20 that are interesting, that fit into a certain box that I want, right? Like it has the nice pay, it's maybe it's a few blocks from my house, it's a remote job, it got good benefits, somewhere I want to work, somewhere I could fit in. Like 10 or 20, I'll sort through those, and then I get those down to about 3 where I have an interview, and I'll have an interview with each one of those. Meantime, people are contacting. I'm still getting contacts, so it's the ball's rolling, right? And so I'll have like 4 or 5 interviews, and then it'll come down to like two or 3 offers. Like I'm like sitting like, okay, which one do I want? That's the position you want to be in, but that takes a lot of work. It's a grind that you're gonna have to go through. But it's worth the grind is worth it, because I mean, we're going through a recession and I'm not feeling it, man. I'm not feeling it. Lindsay Williams said, "What about cover letter?" I don't usually do cover letters. I personally don't. That's not to say that you shouldn't do them. I'm not shitting on cover letters. I'm not saying don't do it. I don't do it. And I've gotten a lot of offers not doing cover letters. That said, I'm sure there's some tricks that you can use with cover letters. It's just something I haven't used, because I'm trying to sort through. I'm thinking of speed. I think that mine's based off of quantity has its own quality. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to hit as many different organizations as possible with my resume as fast as I can, to get to sort all of that down to that 1 or 2 jobs that are going to be an offer. But I think that you could use cover letters in a way that could maybe lessen the amount that I have to get through. So cover letters might be another play that I can do in the future. I just don't personally use it at this time, and it's been working. My method's been working. He says, "Can you work in cybersecurity and live in a different country, or is that not allowed?" Lindsay, yes, you can. And let me explain. I'll just tell you my personal experience. First of all, not all jobs will allow you to do this. Okay, not all American jobs, remote, will allow you to do this. There's different kinds of remote jobs. So there's some remote jobs that allows you to work remote, like it's called flex work, really. So they allow you to work remotely a few times out of the week, so you have to be in a certain area. Those are typically like they say, okay, you have to be in the Washington, D.C., Virginia area, or you have to be in Colorado area, and then you have to be in a certain geographic area because they need you to come to the office a few times a week. Okay. So those obviously you're not going to be able to work from another country. Then you've got ones that they're remote, but you got to travel a lot, and all their clients are within a certain area. And for those are kind of tricky because if what I've noticed is some companies they'll look for people in a certain area. Like let's say you wanted to move to Thailand, and they just happen to have an office in Thailand, and they need a security guy there, and so they're looking for a person who lives in Thailand, who knows cybersecurity, who can qualify for their job, and it's an American or Canadian based company, but they need a person in Thailand. And hell, I mean, if that's the case, you're literally working for an American or Canadian or whatever company. They're paying you Canadian or US money, and you're living in cost of living Thailand. Nope, you're getting paid just what they pay their normal employees in Thailand. So there's that kind of job where they're traveling. But that said, if they're I worked for a place where you could live anywhere. They didn't say you could live anywhere on planet Earth, but their clients that they want you to hit are in the US. So you have to fly back, go hit their clients, and then come back to home where Thailand or wherever you live. So that's another option. And then the other one is 100% remote. I've had all three of these types of jobs. And so let me tell you specifically about each one. So let's start off with the one where it was flex work. So flex work usually I have to be in a certain area. I'm in Colorado, so the thing is they have an office in Colorado and they have classified information, and I have to drive to the site to actually do that classified work. So there's no way I could work overseas with that job, but it was mostly working from home. That's one position. Then I had one was international company, global company, and we basically had clients all over the world. It was a B2B. Like our gigantic business would do cybersecurity to different clients all over. Like we had some in South America, we had some in Europe, we had one in Japan, we had them all over the place. And we were consultants that would go to their sites. That was part of our service. We would go to their site, do a scan, or do whatever we needed to do, or meet with them personally and all that kind of stuff. So for that, we actually needed a person who was on site, like lived around that area. And so usually we had a person who, for example, lived in, I don't know, Jakarta, India. And that guy, he was an American dude who's living in India who could go to the site and meet that person, right? That's just off the top of my head one example. We had some in South America. We had one in Europe. We had one in like Germany or whatever that they could just hit that. But they lived over and they were making the same thing or more than what I made living in the U.S., but they're living in Japan or Korea or wherever they live. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, there are cybersecurity jobs in different countries. I will say that they are difficult to get. They're not impossible. They're just difficult to get because people know that these exist. And there's not many of them. And so it's highly, highly competitive to get those jobs. They go very fast. As soon as it opens up, they're gone. And they try to hire inside. And you say, but they pay low. Not the ones I'm talking about. So you're working for, and I'll just tell you the company I worked for. One was Verizon. Verizon, they have a cybersecurity unit, and we had clients all over the country, all over the world, and so we have to have a person that lived in that area, or we'd have to fly. Me from Colorado, have to fly all the way to that part of the world. But usually, we would have our guy who already is in that part of the world to go hit that site. And that was his job. Now when he wasn't doing that, when he wasn't hitting the sites there, he was doing basic IT work. I mean, basic cybersecurity work, helping us with reports or whatever, So yes, these jobs exist. Another job I did was 100% remote. That was a part-time job I did. Was where I was writing security policies and matching the security policy, each instance of the security policy with certain security controls. And it was a lot of work, but I could do that job from anywhere. Like as a matter of fact, my boss at that place, he flew to Europe and was there for like a week working from there. And then my coworker, he was American dude. He flew to India and was working from there. We were just doing our telecoms and stuff from there. I could have been in the Philippines the whole time. I could have been in the Philippines that whole time. Um, it was a it was a GRC policy type policy writing position. Cybersecurity policy. Look for security policy writing because they don't really like security policy writing. You don't really need to be in a location. You just need to write the policy, right? And you're usually dealing with a policy that doesn't have any kind of sensitive information in it. So sometimes, depending on how they write it, but it doesn't normally have, and even if it did, you're using encryption, you're using their systems to transfer the information back and forth or whatever, right? So there's different levels of security that you have with that. So yeah, these jobs exist. But I've also heard of people doing different types of GRC positions. Like a friend of mine, a coworker of mine, he had a job in the Philippines doing a GRC for a bank. He was doing like Sarbanes-Oxley for a bank in the Philippines, and he had that job for like 6 months. I had another guy who was a Cisco guy. He was good at call manager. Call manager is some kind of Cisco device that manages digital voice over IP. And he had a CCVP. I don't even know if that's still a thing, but this dude, Cisco has this device called Call Manager, and it manages calls digitally, right? It's on a server or some shit. And so this guy was managing that. He was doing that in the Philippines. His job he was there for like a year or two doing that job for call centers. I'm trying to think of some other IT type cybersecurity jobs I've heard of. People doing it overseas making the same kind of money. I myself have had these jobs where I could work over there. Now, the job I have now, I can't work overseas. I'm remote 100%, but I have to work within the continental United States. I can't work at all, not even on vacation outside of the United States. So that, that's something I have to live with for now. He said, what do I recommend for entry level cybersecurity? What do I recommend? I think that's what you're saying. What do I recommend for cybersecurity? I recommend if you're entry level, any job you can get. I know it's not. I'm not trying to cop out it. Bear with me. I'll explain. In the very beginning of your career, if you're entry level, don't get caught up in the flashy object thing. I know you maybe at this point in your career, you're getting pulled in by, I don't know, that freaking awesome PhD guy. Maybe you watch him, right? That awesome cybersecurity PhD guy. You watch him, and he's telling you, "Oh, you got to learn." I don't know what that guy says. I don't watch that guy's content. I've seen a couple of videos. It's very interesting, but I don't watch cybersecurity stuff if I'm not working usually. So anyway, you right now you got the shiny object. So you're saying, "Oh, AI, I'm gonna go do that," and oh, look, cloud, I gotta go do that, and cybersecurity. Oh, that's like you gotta. Right now, you just got to get your foot in the door. All right. I'm not saying you can't mess around with AI. You definitely should. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn cloud or do cloud. Yeah, definitely do that stuff. But right now, as a beginning IT person, what you need to do is get your foot in the door. Just get your foot in the door. Like, get any opportunity you can. Even if you're an IT guy, like you've been a help desk guy, now you're trying to level up into cybersecurity guy, a cybersecurity profession, and get that title as a cybersecurity analyst or cybersecurity, whatever, specialist. Start where you are. uh, piggyback off of, build off of the certifications and the experience that you already have in security, and put that in your resume. And when you start getting offers, take the best opportunity that you can. So there's no specific role I can say that, oh, you should definitely do cybersecurity analyst. You should definitely do junior cybersecurity GRC analyst. You should definitely do. There's so many different roles and titles, and really the company. Here's the thing: a company can name the role anything that they want. So from if I were to give you a role, it's just not going to be helpful to you. So what I would say is tighten up your resume. If you're a help desk guy and you've been doing this if you've been watching this video, I told you exactly how to do it in the beginning. If you missed it, it's on YouTube. It stays on there permanently. It's not like TikTok. Go on YouTube, it's there. Convocourses, look at this live video. I explained exactly how to do it. And if that's not good enough, go to convocourses.net. I have a free downloadable stuff that you can get, stuff that you can pay for, whatever, walks you through everything I just talked about. And it's been working for me. I don't that it looks like the industry is about to shift here real soon, but so far it's still working for me. I'm still getting tons of opportunities all the time. So focus on what you can get right now, like by marketing what you know how to do, and then take the best opportunity that is offered to you. That's what I would say. Stick with that job for some time and then level up again, and just keep wash, rinse, repeat. That's what I would advise you to do. Let me see. Larry, oh man, thank you so much for that. Hey, Bruce, just dropping and showing some love. Appreciate the streams and short conversations. Can you talk about the pros and cons of the public and private sector? Feel like money is always first raised, but I think it might be closer with other factors. Thank you, Larry. Larry is the one who funded this drink right here. Larry got me this drink. I appreciate you, Larry. This helps fuel this particular conversation. So everybody give props to Larry. Thank you so much, sir. And I think I saw your question, the beginning of this video, this podcast. I was talking about your comment on YouTube, by the way. So once again, thank you for the conversation. I really appreciate when professionals jump on here and give their 2 cents. I learn something myself, that's my favorite part of having this community. So I can really speak on this one, public and private sector. And what Larry means by that is public sector means like working for the government. Whatever government you happen to be in or around, that's where public sector means that you work for the Department of Defense. You work for directly. Your paycheck comes from the Department of Defense. It comes from the Ministry of Health. It comes from the Department of Health and Human Services. It comes from whatever, right? You're working for the government. That's public sector. Because public sector meaning your money is coming from taxes, right? Taxpayers are paying into the Department of Health, Human Services, the Department of Energy, Department of Ministry of Health, whatever it is, right? And you're paid by the public, basically, essentially. Private sector means like Google, Facebook, I don't know, your local auto parts place down the street, the gas station, privately owned organizations of all types, hospitals, retail, hotel, restaurants, you name it. Those privately owned companies. That's the difference between public sector, government, state government, federal government, whatever, and then privately owned by you yourself, or privately owned by a gigantic company or a small, medium company or a mom and pop. So that's public and private. Pros and cons. Now, I've worked for both. Public sector, I was actually in the military for 8 years. And when I got out, I continued to work as a contractor working with the public sector, and was offered GS positions while I was working in the public sector. Private sector, I've worked as a contractor in private organizations, but also I worked 100% private, as in we didn't have nothing to do with the government. So I've worked both of these, pros and cons of both. Here's my 2 cents. Now, if you guys have any other pros and cons that can add to this conversation, I will repeat what you say here. But in my experience, the private sector pays more. And actually, Larry mentions that. That's probably the number one thing. It just, when you see your income every month, every week or 2 weeks or whatever, bi-weekly, whatever, it's more money. It's more money. Another pro to private work is that the more private it is, the more resourceful and creative you have to be with your time management, and the more technical skills you have to know. What I've noticed is people in the private sector, they rely very heavily on the bottom line. So they don't waste money. Like if they get a tool, that tool has to do a job. And if they can't have any waste involved at all, because that's going to affect whether or not they're going to survive. So typically the people who work there are lean and mean. They have to know what the hell they're doing. So the technical know-how is sharper, but a lot of times you're doing a little bit more work. So that's kind of a pro and a con there. Another pro with private sector is there's less BS. There's less BS. I noticed they kind of like, you don't have time to waste. So you're just kind of getting to the point of everything. Like you're just like, this is what we're going to do, period. Like, let's move. Let's do it. It's quicker. Less BS. You still doing training and things like that, but it's a lot like you do the training, get the hell out there, and you're back to work. Right. So cons of private sector is that it's not as stable. They could fire you at any time for anything and just make some shit up, and then there's nothing you can do about it but get another job. It's sink or swim. Like, it's cutthroat. So it's kind of like you eat what you kill kind of thing. Survival mode kind of. It's pretty. It can get pretty crazy pretty fast because it's pretty cutthroat. Meaning like if somebody's trying to get a promotion, you'll notice some people who are closer to a certain group will get promoted. Or if you're closer to the boss, or you were in the boss's ear, or the boss is the same race as you, or gender or whatever, like that stuff matters, man. Not all the time. I'm not saying it's the most important thing, but all those little things kind of contribute to them putting certain people in certain positions. That's something I notice, right? Me, I'm not trying to level up, so I don't typically I don't care about that stuff. I just want them to pay me, and I'm going to do my job and get the fuck out of there. So I don't get bothered by it, but I notice a lot of my coworkers who are trying to level up and believe in the company, they get pissed off about it. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to be a manager. So I'm give more time for these people. No, just pay me and I'll be on my way. You know what I mean? Anyway, neither here nor there. So another con is that their benefits are not good. When I say they're not good, they're really not good. Typically, they give you about 11 days a year of vacation, for vacation. They'll do stupid shit, like they'll count your health days against you. Like, let's say you got sick a couple days, and sometimes you gotta use your vacation time. It's so stupid. Their healthcare is not very good because you're relying, especially if you're in the U.S., you gotta rely on that stupid U.S. healthcare system. I don't even want. That pisses me off so bad that I will derail this entire video if I start talking about that, and I won't do that. I'll just say that the healthcare is not good. Usually, it's okay, but you're paying a whole bunch of money, and then you're gonna pay a whole bunch of money more when you use the insurance anyway. Like, it doesn't even matter anyway. So it's not good. Dental's not great. The mental health stuff sucks. It's just not good. It's those are the cons. If you are a single guy and you have no kids, you have no family, you're in your 20s, your early 30s, and that none of that's a problem for you, probably. You know, you can jump from job to job. You don't have mouths to feed, so so that's not going to be a problem. You just want to get that paycheck and be done with it, and maybe you want to level up or whatever. So, okay, so public sector is different. Like, first of all, pros. Let's talk about the pros of public sector. Pros is you have job security. That's, in my mind, that's the number one thing. Job. They're not going to just fire you for no damn reason. You're not going to just lose your contract and suddenly you got to find another job. Like private sector, it's way way better for stability. Um, the benefits are better. The healthcare is better. The dental is better. The vision is better, and they give you way more vacation, and you don't have to eat into your healthcare vacation time. You don't have to take your actual vacation to take care of your kid when they're sick or something dumb like that, right? And even if they do, you get 30 days of vacation sometimes. So they take care of all that, and then they have a retirement plan. Imagine that. They have a retirement plan. It's awesome. Their benefits are better and it's more stable. Those are the two biggest pros. So that's really good if you have a family. If you're an older guy or maybe you're a younger guy, but you have a young family, you just got married, you just bought a house, like you want stability, then man, you're not going to beat the government. You're just not going to beat the public sector. You're just not. It's just there are some good private sector. I've heard of a couple of really, really good companies. They are far and in between. Like I can count on one hand how many I've actually heard of that really, really took care of the people who work in the company. And one I worked for was Ball. Ball was a great corporation. They had a very low turnover rate. Like people were there. The average time that people were there was like 15 years. The average, and Ball was great, man. That was one of the best companies I've ever worked with. What's another company I've heard of? There's not many. There's not many that I've heard of that have that old American, like, taking care of people spirit to it. It's just Google, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. They're not good for they're good for pay. They're innovators and all that, but man, they lay off people as soon as the stocks go down. They're not good for stability, is what I'm saying. They're great companies, but they're not good. It's different, man. Times have changed. So those are the pros, is that it's more stable, better benefits. Negative side of the public sector is that they don't typically pay the equivalent of what you would pay if you're a cybersecurity guy working with the government. They try to match what is on the outside, but it's not quite there yet. It's going to be like 10,000 a year shy of what you would normally make as a cybersecurity analyst in the private sector. So it's going to be less money per month, but they make up for it a little bit in the benefits and the stability, but the pay is significantly lower. Other negative things about it is that another negative thing is that the promotion is slower. Like if you come in as a this level, let's say GS11, somebody has to die for you to be a GS12. Like literally, somebody is in the GS12 position. They have like 2 slots. Somebody has to die for you to go in. I'm not exaggerating. They have like a couple slots that are GS12, and they say, okay, one of these 2 dudes who are already there has to either retire or die for you to come in. And they might even choose you. They might choose somebody else. So it's just hard to level up. So those are the pros and cons that I've seen looking at my friends and family who work my mom works for the state of California for many years. She's retired. She had great benefits. She got paid pretty good when she was there. She didn't get paid great money. Like I've seen people who work. I worked there myself for the federal government, and then also in the private sector. So from based off of my experience and my friends and family, um, those are some of the pros and cons. I would say if you are a family guy and you get the opportunity to be in the the public sector, and you really need stability, probably that's a better choice. So if you're trying to retire and you're already 50 plus and you got like you got 10, 15 years left, but you got to get that retirement, maybe you should think about going public sector. Private sector, if you're just like you just want to make that quick money, you just the most important thing for you right now in your life is just to get that fat paycheck, and you already have a retirement plan, or you're a young dude, you're not even thinking about that. You just focus on you could just put that in buy stocks or whatever you're going to do, and you don't have a family to worry about nothing, then probably private sector is going to be better for you. Those are some of the pros and cons. Larry says, I've heard complaints about the healthcare time off with the Fed employees, but I've heard horror stories from private sector friends. Seeing the difference really had me rethinking my opinion. Yeah, the private sector, I've seen a lot of bad stuff in I've been working mostly in the private sector now, so I got out of the military in 20 2003, and I've been working contract, and I have a lot of exposure to the public sector since then. Like I said, my mom worked in the public sector. I was offered jobs in the public sector, and private sector, man, the worst stories I hear is when people are laid off suddenly, abruptly. Those are probably the worst stories that I've heard. Like they just got hired there, they had this great position, they're making all this money, and then without notice, without knowing having any indication that anything was wrong, they just suddenly got laid off, like just like that, and they had to find a job within a couple weeks. I've heard of that happening, and the last time something like that even close happened to me, we actually had a little bit of we kind of knew what was about to happen, because our company was going through they had to rebid. They were going for a rebid in the contract, or like recompeting. That's what they call it, recompete for the contract. And our time was up, and we were like, yeah, okay, we're going to do it and all this stuff. But we might not. They're kind of like, we might lose it, but we don't think it. We think we got it. But they gave us ample time, like 2 months in advance, to say, look, we're about to do a recompete. What I'm saying is we had like 2 months in advance to know, like, okay, do I need to find another? And some people jump ship. They were like, I'm not waiting. Y'all messing around. It looks like we're going to lose it. I'm out. And they bounced. So, and then another time I worked for a company, and they had me as a subcontractor, and I was basically every 6 months, they were like, hey, like, we don't know if we're going to keep you. And they just kept doing that to me for like a year, like 2 years straight. It was very stressful, because every 6 months I was like, damn, they haven't hired me on. I don't know what's going to happen. But luckily I stayed on. I was a hard worker. People were leaving because that place sucked. People were just out the door. They were about to let me go as a subcontractor. And then the person that they were like, oh, here's our new golden child. We're going to hire this person on. And that person was like, what the hell? I'm out. I'm leaving. This place sucks. They left. And then they were like, okay, Bruce, like, we'll have to keep you 6 more months. Are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah, I was looking for another job, but okay, I guess I'll stay. And that happened over and over again for like 2 years. Horror stories, man. And these are people with wife and kids, like people just getting let go. It's crazy, man. Definitely some horror stories. And don't even get me started on the healthcare stuff, man. That's a nightmare. Government has really stepped up efforts for competing pay. Definitely worth looking into as an option. Yeah, when I was working with the Air Force, they were really trying to compete. Like they were really kept on up in the level. Like they'd have a GS level 11, and then you'd have some kind of a bonus pay if you were in certain engineering or technical fields. they'd have some sort of a bonus. I don't know whatever happened with that, but when I was there, it was very enticing. So I'm glad that the government's stepping up their game. I mean, maybe I should take a look at it myself again. All right, let me see. Let me see here. Man like JoJo says, first year cyber major college. Any advice? And then Lindsay gave great advice. He says, get a job as a help desk person. That is one option that you can do. Man like JoJo, if you're still watching, what I would advise you to do is look for working student jobs. Sometimes they'll have a working student program at your college, even if it's an online college or if it's a community college, whatever you happen to be at. They'll have a working student program usually. Look into that, and they usually need help with IT. So one of my friends, he's doing this, and here's why this is cool. So as you're getting your cyber degree, right, you're majoring in information systems, and then you do a working student program, even if they're paying you zero, which they're not. I believe it's a working student, so they're gonna pay you something. But the thing is, the most valuable part of that is you be able to put all that experience on your resume. Don't wait until you get your degree. The degree is not a magic wand. It is not going to magically make jobs appear out of the sky. That's not how this works. A degree is helpful. Okay, I'm not telling you don't get a degree. I think degrees are great, especially you're about to be an engineer. Like, of course, a degree is more information you get, the more knowledge you get, the more it enhances you as a professional. So I'm saying, degree is good, but I'm just telling you there's more steps to it. The experience is what they really want in the field. So that said, you can get experience right now. Don't wait until you get that magic paper. Get it right now. And this goes for any of you guys who are students, even in high school. If you are serious about this here, IT, cybersecurity, whatever, start with IT. Like Lindsay said, they have a help desk at your college. So if you can, if there's a way, if they have a working student program, hell, if they don't, maybe suggest it to them. Be like, hey, do you guys need help fixing laptops that you guys give to students? Do you guys need help? High school too. Like, does the district need help? I want to get my hands dirty. I want to do this work. They'll be shocked about your initiative a lot of times, especially if you're in high school and you're coming to the staff saying, hey guys, I want to be an IT guy. I made up my mind. Go to the staff and be like, is there a working student program? Is there help? I'll just volunteer my own time after school to help you guys fix computers. I want to learn this. I want to get this. I want to get that hands-on experience. Because the thing is, somebody, especially if you are in an environment where somebody will take you under their wing and then mentor you and then teach you they're going to walk you through how to do it, how to image a system, how to remove viruses, how to update signatures, basic stuff like that, or fix somebody's computer that's turning on and off or whatever. That's working student. Don't wait to get your degree, become a working student. Another thing you can possibly do is while you're that first year of your degree is start applying immediately for apprenticeships, start applying for internships. Get the experience before you get your degree. Get it right now. Don't wait. Hope that helps you. Let me see. I'm looking for more comments on TikTok. In the meantime, QJ says, I'm a SOC operator with Comcast for the last 2 years. I'm working on getting my degree. Okay, great. Awesome. Do you think that it would help my resume trying to be a SOC analyst? Absolutely. SOC analyst is one of those pivotal roles that few IT professionals get the opportunity to have. Now, I'm saying this as a SOC operator. I used to be a SOC operator, and I had no idea how awesome it would be. But man, I got exposure to so many things all at once. So let me explain. So as a SOC analyst, basically you're another role title for that role is for the work you're going to do is called cybersecurity analyst. And so you're going to get exposure to, you have to know a little bit about networking, how IPs work, public and private IPs. You have to know a little bit about workstations, the difference between workstations and servers, security from a security perspective. You have to know different appliances that are different security appliances, firewalls, how firewall rules work. You have to know a little bit about how IPS and IDS works. You have to know how the logs look between a firewall and a workstation. You have to know event logs versus audit logs, event viewer on Windows versus, because you might have to log into a Windows system and look at the event viewer versus how you look at logs on a Linux system. There's just so many things. One of the coolest things that you get to learn that it was so cool to learn was network forensics, where you're opening up packets that come through. Like you're you're actually opening up the packet and looking at the raw data that came across the network and to find viruses in it or to find exploits in the actual packet. I mean, I was like, what the hell's going on here? It was really cool, man. But you have all this exposure. So is it a great place to learn? Oh my Lord, yes. Like you get so much technical exposure to cybersecurity threats. Oh, that's another thing. Cybersecurity threat intelligence. You're going to get exposure to cybersecurity threat intelligence, bug hunting. You're going to get forensics, data forensics, because I had to work with them. You're going to get exposure to incident response, incident handling. So that's another part of it. You get exposure to all these different parts of information security, and even ethical hacking. Like there's so many different things that you're going to get exposure to. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done, and it really, really fully well-rounded my experience and my knowledge base of this field. After I think that after I did that for a couple of years, I had a much better understanding of how an organization can protect itself, and why risk management framework is so important to an organization. The process of going through a security a framework like ISO 27001 or PCI compliance. Because before that, I mean, I had exposure like with setting up Unix systems and Linux systems and a little bit of firewall and all that kind of stuff. But after doing cybersecurity analyst work, it just completed the whole picture of how many threats there are and how to deal with risk. Because that was the part I didn't really know, like how much exposure to the internet does an organization really have, and how to manage that risk. Because there's no way, after seeing that shit, it made me realize there's no way to really get away from the risk. And all you can really do in this day and age is manage it properly. That's all you can really do. And the way you manage it is, once we do get hit, what are we going to do? What's our disaster recovery plan? What tools do we have in place, and are those fine-tuned to where we can stop as many of these incidents as possible? And oh, by the way, we won't need to validate that. We need to check to make sure the firewall is properly in place by having a pen testing team. Pen testing teams and red teams are so important, especially if you're dealing with sensitive information. It just gave me this whole picture of what it really looks like to protect an organization. And so SOC analyst work is really, really good. If you get the opportunity to do it, man, you will be so beyond what normal cybersecurity and IT people get exposed to. Let me see. Caffeine crimes, caffeine crime and cookies. I like the name. It says, what kind of degree do you have? I have I have 2 degrees. Um, I have one in as a bachelor's degree in information technology with a specialization in networking from the University of Phoenix. So it's not an Ivy League college, but it is a degree from an accredited place. Uh, and then I also have an associate degree in criminal justice, which I got from the Community College of the Air Force. So those are my 2 degrees, and it's not gonna win me any brownie points at Ernst and Young or any of these companies that look at whether I went to an Ivy League college or something like that. But it's worked for me. It's been working for me. Let me see. I got some other questions here. Hey, have you never worked remote? So I want to know if there is any downtime working remote because I have kids, or do I have to get a child care for them? Excuse me. So I can really talk about this one. The question is, this is a great, great, great question. Caffeine, I'm really glad you asked this question. I wouldn't even have thought to answer this one to address it. So the question is, have I worked remotely? And if you have kids, do you have to do something special to take care of your kids? So my situation is very specialized. I have an actual special needs kid. I have to be home, especially in the last few years. I've had to be home to care for my child. It's been very, very pivotal that I be home. Um, that said, when they were little, it was very difficult for me to be a single father, taking care of my kids. Um, it's very, very difficult if you have little kids. Like I would say before the age, probably 7 and below, it's just really hard. The younger they are, the harder it is for you to do work from home. You probably have to have childcare if you're working from home with a little one, like a real little. But you can do it. It's just going to be more difficult depending on how much work you actually do or how many meetings you do or whatever. I remember one job I had when our kids were really little and I was working a remote job, but my remote job had a lot of travel. But even when I was home, I was supposed to be like writing this pamphlet, right? Which took all my time because I was only home for like a week and I had to write this book for 1 week, and I would have to write the book, and then I was instructor, and I had no time in. I was grinding, and my kids, I'm a we would play Legos. We would like make these little videos together, with the toys and stuff. I was a very hands-on kid. I love being with my kids. We would go to the park. I was always with my kids, man. It was just real. I just love being with them. But when I was home and I had to work, they didn't understand. Hey, dad has to work right now. They just didn't understand that. So they kept coming in and saying, "Hey, dad, let's do this." I'm like, "Hey, guys, I have to work," And my partner at the time, their biological mom wasn't very parent much of a parent, so like she just wouldn't like she just wasn't very active with them. But me, I always was, so they came to me to play. It's just more difficult. That said, I have coworkers who have little babies and they are working from home. It depends on the company, I say, and what you're doing at that company. 9 times out of 10, you can do most of what you need to do with your kids as far as them being there. If mom or dad needs a few minutes to do a meeting real quick, you know, you can just like what I would do is I would just tell them, listen, I got a meeting in 10 minutes, okay? And I'm gonna shut this door, but after 10 minutes, okay, I'll be out and you can come in here and we can play or whatever. Right. So there would be meetings where I have to run the meeting, right? And I can't have any interruptions. So I would just explain it to them when they were a little younger. And then after that, if they wanted to play in the room next to me or something like that, we could do that. One of the issues is that the younger ones, they'll have a lot of appointments, so you have to take them, to their. But you just let the organization know, hey, I'll be out for 30 minutes. I got to make a run for 1 hour or whatever like that. But you could do it without doing childcare, because you're there with them. Like if you need to make them a sandwich real quick, make the sandwich, come back, do your work, make your spreadsheets, whatever you got to do. So you can work it out. It depends on the job. As they got older, like nowadays, I just need to be around. So my kids are like teenager. One of them's grown, like in her 20s, and the other one's like teenage years and just going through some stuff. And so I'm here, and me being here is amazing, right? For them and for me, like for us to develop together and grow together. You know what I mean? So I don't think you need a child care, and normally you don't have to tell them that. And especially if you make that known, like what you want to do is let your organization, and usually if you're working from home, they'll understand because they have their own stuff to deal with, right? Your boss has some other stuff going on with their family, especially if they also work from home. You would just let them know, like, listen, my kid has an appointment every Wednesday at 3. It's 1 hour. I will make up those hours. Just let them know. Let them know in advance. And usually, as long as you get the work done, right? You knock out your 40 hours, whatever it happens to be, or you knock out those 4 documents, TPS reports, or whatever the hell you got to do. That they're more interested in the results, than anything else. It depending on the company. But what I'll do is I'll let my boss know, hey man, this is what's going on with my kid. I got an appointment I got to do at this time. I'm going to adjust my meetings to the left a little bit. Hey, I'm going to miss this meeting on Thursday. Is that all right? And then usually they're like, yep, it's cool. Do you have somebody to cover for you? Yep, I'm good. Tell my coworker, hey man, I'm going to be out. That's how it works. And Larry says, agreed, more difficult with younger kids, but to me, it's worth the grind to set yourself up a couple years later in your career. My wife is disabled and my team is understanding with appointments. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So if you talk to your team, like I have a coworker, and if he has ish stuff going on, I said, listen, man, whatever you need, you just let me know and I'll cover for you. And he does the same for me. We just have this understanding. We have a customer that we have to meet. Sometimes we got to be in those meetings. So, and there's no way around it. So I say, hey man, could you take this one? He's like, yep, I got it. Or, hey, no, I can't take it either. All right, we're going to cancel it and we'll make it up the next day. Or you just got to coordinate with your team to make sure the work is getting done at all costs. But that doesn't mean that you have to miss your wife's appointment or your kid's appointment. You just let your team know what's going on. And typically what I've learned is the more they know what's going on, like even if it's personal stuff, the more they kind of know what's going on, the more they got your back, because they got their own stuff and they want to know, especially if the whole team is working from home. Sometimes they have their own stuff going on. So they want to know that you're going to cover them when they have that day that they really need. So if you let your team know what's going on, your coworker, know what's going on. Hey man, I got this appointment every week at 2. It goes for about an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. I'll be right back. I'll make up that time. Tell your boss, don't worry about it. I'll make that time up. They'll cover for you, man. Sometimes you might miss a whole day. Sometimes you might miss a whole day and you just got to work it out with your coworkers, and then they'll cover for you. You know what I mean? So it just depends on what you're trying to do. And but I haven't had issues with it. When my kids were younger, it was much more difficult. I would say that. It was much more. It was to the point where I was like, damn, I don't even know if I could do this, because my kids are constantly knocking on the door. I don't know if you guys ever seen that one CNN. There was a CNN interview where the dude is doing an interview. It's an international interview, right? And they're asking him about China or Korea or something. And he's in Korea. He's a correspondent in India. He's in his room just like this. And his daughter comes in the room going like this. She's like, comes up to the camera, and it's right in the middle of this dude talking. And he's dad's talking, to CNN, and his daughter's there, and then the mom runs in and grabs the daughter out. That's kind of what it was like with my kids, man. My kids are like, because I'm really hands on with my kids, especially the younger one. I love that age where you can play with them and stuff. So they knew that, and if I was home, they were like, "My dad's playing. Dad's here. Oh, we're playing." So I'm gonna answer a couple more questions, and I'm gonna get off of this thing. I don't know what's going on with these comments, man. I can see you guys' comments, but when I try to click on it, like my movements are real slow here. I don't know what's going on with that. Larry said exactly. Learn to communicate and work together. That's how I do it, and it's been going really good at every place I've worked at remotely, and I've been working remotely for the last 7 years, and that's exactly what I did. I just let the team know what I'm doing, and usually we can work things out and get the work knocked out. Whatever we need to do, we get it knocked out. How can you tell which companies give downtime for kids? Um, what in the last few companies, so I've been doing this on and off for 7 years, and maybe even longer than 7 years, because before this 7 year stretch, I actually was working remotely teaching. So it's, yeah, around 7 years. And usually, if everybody's working remotely at the company, they understand that you have a reason for working remotely, and everybody has their own life and their own family. So if you can just communicate with your team, usually um, they will work something out with you. The companies that are a little bit more rigid about it were the ones that where I had to travel a lot, because with those ones, I I can't miss those trips, and there's no way around that. No amount of appointments, doesn't matter how important the appointments is with my family or that I have little kids. I have to get to, the whole job is based off of me traveling to those locations. So those jobs, they don't really care. Like, they don't care about your family. Like, you need to, not that they don't care, but you got to get to those appointments. So those ones are a little stricter about it. So if there's a lot of travel, probably not going to be good for you having kids if you're traveling, unless you have a partner who's going to take care of that and help you take care of that. And I think that's it, guys. I'm going to call it quits. I've been talking for about 2 hours. Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much for the drink. Appreciate you for the donation to the drink. Courtesy of Larry giving me that donation. Appreciate you. I just use it to buy coffee, buy drinks, and stuff like that. I appreciate you guys giving the donations. Thanks, Larry, for all your great advice. I love when professionals jump on here and help me out. Thanks for all you guys' great questions, and I will see you guys on the next one. And if you guys didn't know, I'm a published author. I have a whole bunch of books about the stuff I talk about here. So go ahead and check me out in link in description below, convocourses.net. Got a couple free, they're not free anymore, but they're still discounted, some of the books. So go ahead and check those out. I got courses and stuff for you to purchase if you want. And see you guys on the next one. I am out of here. If I can shut this thing down. Oh, here we go.